The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of the municipality of Meaford, and of course, no stranger to the Politically Speaking audience, and certainly no stranger to Grey Bruce. Ross, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you, David. It's been a while.
It has. This is your first time in this season, I think. We talked last spring. Oh, we've got a lot of catching up to do.
We do.
Well, let's go really high level off the top and talk about something called strategic priorities, which are a really important thing for every municipality. But all yours.
Well, look, I just have a couple of points. It's sort of like a report card because everybody is wondering, what the heck happened to their strategic priorities? Where are they and what's happening? So in previous terms, the strategic priorities were defined, and this is over the last 8 years, as things like growing our economy, investing in infrastructure, and ensuring sustainability. And those are great priorities. They're awfully hard to measure. And I believe that we're going in that general direction, but you don't see many milestones. And so when I actually was campaigning for the office of mayor, I said, let us develop some actual specific projects that when each one is accomplished, we know we have moved the needle on a strategic priority. And so that's what we did. And we've actually got 15 specific projects now that we hope to accomplish over the next 4 years, and 1 year is pretty much gone, isn't it? So, and we know that each one of these will move the needle. An example, you want to talk about our Tree of the Year at some point, and I'll just tell you, we have already done an inventory of trees in urban Meaford, which was one of our priorities, and it's done. I was encouraged very, very strongly by my supporters to use consultants for this process. And my instinct said, we have got to get these projects done with the help of our staff. And if they don't have input to this, and if they don't have a chance to tell us what's doable and what isn't, and explain, how much time things take and how much money and where it's coming from, all of those things, how are we going to really make that much progress? So I'm going to tell you, it took longer than I thought. And there were bumps along the way, but I believe that now we actually have got these projects lined up, and staff is invested in them. Staff is excited about them. Staff want to see these happen just as much as we do. And that, to my mind, is maybe the most important achievement of this council to date. The staff drew up project charters. I didn't know what a project charter was. And honestly, it slows everything down, but you sort of know where you're going once you have that in place. So, and we're just right now finishing up what is potentially the most important of these priorities, and that is, to be prepared if and when TC Energy goes forward with the pump storage project. And we have signals from the province that there could be a go-ahead as early as November 30th in terms of whether or not this project will move into the environmental assessment stage. So I'm just really excited that we have got some progress on that file. And for example, we've got consultants in place right now who very shortly will be meeting with community representatives to negotiate a community benefits program. And we also have Alien Associates who've been engineering projects in Meaford for literally decades. They're ready to peer review the environmental assessment studies and also help us develop a regulatory plan for Meaford to participate in the federal impact assessment process. So I feel that that's important too, because whether we like it or not, this is coming down the pike and more than likely gaining momentum as it comes. And we really weren't ready. And I feel today that we're in a much better position than we were.
Well, that's good to hear, because those kinds of things are goals. And I recall this from my own training experience. If you're talking about goals, they've got to be specific, attainable, and measurable. And it sounds like you've got good buy-in from staff so that they're on board. Nothing worse than having a consultant give you a laundry list of things you should do, and then the consultant walks away, dumping it on council and on the staff.
Those are the reports that gather dust on a shelf. You know what I mean? And sadly, very sadly, so, and cost a lot of money. You know, just because you spent the money doesn't give you the product when it comes to consultants.
And you know that from your experience in broadcasting. When you bring in a consultant, they don't understand the local, what it's like on the ground, and you know, that's that. If you don't have that, you're toast.
There are times when you absolutely need consultants and the best that money can buy, and other times when if you don't figure it out for yourself, you're not really accomplishing much. Anyway.
Right. Well, you actually touched on two of the things that were on my laundry list of things to talk about. And let's go back to a couple of them. You said that the municipality has done an inventory of all their trees. And I presume this indicates condition of trees and unique trees. And you know which ones perhaps are at risk of falling?
All of those things. I think what is the important thing is that it's really a fairly recent development, in my view, that people are understanding that the tree canopy is an important part of health and wellness in our communities. And it plays such a vital role, and we tend to ignore it. And that's why now all of the development contracts say that you will plant more trees than you rip out. You know what I mean? And I think this was very important. And we have one of our directors on staff is extremely interested in the importance of trees, and Meaford has such wonderful trees. Now we have trees that are a nuisance and a problem too, but and that's on many rural roads. But at the end of the day, I think that we this is a valuable thing and something that was an easy win for us, and it's done. We're really happy with that.
I'd also noticed that you've identified a tree of the year, and that's one, and it's unique because, first of all, it's in Beautiful Joe Park, and secondly, it's a sycamore. So two unique things, of course. Beautiful Joe Park is, of course, the kind of center of Meaford. So, in terms of its parks,
can I just share one amazing fact, and that is, if you go into Beautiful Joe Park, you will see that the sycamore lines up exactly behind the statue of Beautiful Joe. I don't know if that was ever done on purpose. I have no idea. But it is, if there's a lot of trees in the park. If you want to find the sycamore, the best way is just line it up with Beautiful Joe, his statue. And it has a unique, it exfoliates its bark. So that's how you distinguish it. It's a sort of a white appearing tree, but a beautiful tree, and it's evidently centuries old. And the reason we, are identifying a tree of the year is that we have a chapter of Tree Trust in Meaford, and people who are very, very willing and able to help us understand our legacy and to promote it and preserve it. So this is an amazing tree, which apparently is the furthest north sycamore in Ontario. And because they're propagated by the wind, the expert who spoke to the small gathering at the unveiling of the Tree of the Year said there must have hitchhiked with some birds or something to get this far north, because it is the furthest north. It's a tree from Carolina and actually all the way down into Mexico.
Yes, it's part of what's called the Carolinian forest, if my notes are correct.
Right.
And what's really interesting is it's not common in Canada. I'd love to see. I know Owen Sound has done an inventory of their trees, and it'll be interesting to see if they're what their inventory looks like. But it's the kind of thing that we took for granted and we cut down often, but we forget that. That's a huge importance. That's a huge because trees are carbon sinks and help us help process. I remember my grade 10 biology. Importance of trees. But yeah, good.
So can we talk about housing now?
Absolutely. What was it? I'm just looking at my laundry list here, and I was going to ask you about that because there's some really interesting things coming forward, and a speed bump. Let's be honest. There was a little bit of a speed bump here at this last recent council meeting, but there was, from what I understand, there was a proposal which went forward to Grey County to purchase the football field. Great piece of land, great flat, not much dirt to move except to excavate, to put in affordable housing, and that was a county initiative.
No, that is a first tier initiative.
Okay, it came from you to county then.
Exactly. Yes, and that's I'd like to explain a little bit about that for everybody's benefit. The first important thing to understand about that property, it's a football field, but it is also a track and field that has a track. And the truth of the matter is now that track is well beyond its best before date, needs a lot of work and so on. But a wonderful, wonderful resource, and it was used just this past weekend by the Meaford Coyotes for their cross-country run. They actually don't use the track and the run. They use the field and they use the Georgia Trail and so on. But anyway, that land does not belong to Meaford. It belongs to the taxpayer. Actually, the taxpayers have bought and paid for that land once. But we don't own it. The municipality, the school board owns it, and the school board has to sell it, and they have to sell it at market value. It shocked me and everybody else around the horseshoe what was considered to be market value for the property, and I'm not at liberty to reveal it, but it was a multi-million-dollar figure.
Yeah.
Multi-million.
No surprise.
So, that is not something that we can afford, but we had a few high cards, and one of them is that we have a road allowance smack in the middle of it. And so our ex-CAO actually had an excellent idea, and that was to propose a land swap, which is part of what we're proposing here. But the idea is that it will not be possible to buy that property at the price of it for a recreational facility. And there will be other opportunities at any rate, although I'd be the first to say it's a prime location. But it's also a prime location for housing. And if you look at housing, it is the biggest problem in Meaford, the biggest problem in Ontario, the biggest problem in Canada, the biggest problem in the world. So we have to get focused on it, and we have to do something about it. And I don't have a lot of time for the councillors at whatever table it is who say, well, that's the province and the federal government. That's got nothing to do with us. Do you know what? There will not be a red cent from any senior government for any level of municipal government that isn't doing everything in its power to do what it can to develop a better housing, situation than what we already have. So
I have heard rumors that there are some announcements coming as well that around housing, and I'm looking forward next week to having the warden on, as well as the staff person responsible for housing, where we can have quite a good discussion about housing and some of the proposals that are coming forward, including, I suspect, Meaford's. But this one, what did Grey County Council do?
Well, first of all, what we've done before going to county council, we did two things. We have come up with the idea of the land swap within the property, and we've also ourselves agreed to invest $500,000 to seed this whole idea. Now, I know the county deferred this, but I think that they realize that they'll have to borrow $1.4 million to bring this whole plan to fruition. And there's another little piece of the equation, and that is $370,000, which the county has retained for just such an occasion. And that money came from the payment in lieu of taxes from the 4th Canadian Training Center in Meaford. So they would use that money to cover their interest costs in doing this. And the whole idea is to have a first tier administration and the county work together. The county will also contribute its planning capacity so that we can put out a request for proposal asking developers for their thoughts and ideas on how we can get some, and what we're really calling it worker housing. As you know, affordable, attainable, all these words are strict definitions for them, and none of them really apply here. What we're just looking for is a proposal that would take that property and give us some housing that people can afford, people who work in Meaford can afford, and some recreational facilities and some green space. And there is a terrific number of trees at the back of the property that should be part of that equation, should stay. And it's a beautiful, beautiful property, but it's walkable. People there can walk to the school. They can walk to the shopping on Highway 26, just east of Meaford. They can walk downtown. They can walk to the beach. Everything is easily walkable. And so I'm hoping that this project will move forward. It's very much in the lap of the gods at this time, but I'm really hopeful. I think it is a good plan, and I just want to repeat that it's my belief that provincial and federal money for housing, which is being talked about a lot, will be for the first and second tiers that are movers and shakers and not the wait and watchers.
Well, let's hope so, because as we know, housing is a desperate issue right across Grey Bruce, and so any initiatives are most welcome. But you had set aside a 1% dedicated tax for affordable housing initiatives at the municipal level, and your council was divided on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This is one of the very few issues that has divided us, and we really have not voted on this at this time. Nobody has said no, but we are trying to feel our way through whether there can be a consensus on this. The reason it's difficult is simply that we're already dedicating on an accrual basis 1% a year for roads, 1% a year for bridges, and 0.5% for facilities. So this means that you've got a 2.5% increase in your taxes every year without doing anything. Now, why would we do that to ourselves? Well, it's simple. The municipality of Meaford is only just a little bit smaller than the whole city of Toronto. So we have got, hundreds of kilometers of roads. We have got on the order, I want to say, of about 85 bridges, many of them 50, 60, 70 years old. So a lot of the infrastructure really needs attention. And we began this. I can't take any credit for this. Meaford Council started this, I want to say 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And it has paid dividends. Now, other first-tier municipalities in Grey and Bruce counties are finding themselves way behind. And it's going to take a lot more than 1% a year to catch up. Should we put another 1% on there for housing? A lot of people say no. It's the responsibility of the federal and provincial governments. And the only reason I would support it is simply, I believe, and I think the senior governments are being more than frank on this, The money they will invest in municipalities will be for the municipalities that come with solutions and investments, some skin in the game themselves. And I think that we would be foolish not to be prepared.
I concur, Ross. I've heard similar statements that unless all levels of government are prepared to step up, you don't get an invitation to the party.
Can I just explain?
Let's hope that you are.
There's a big circle, and it isn't just putting a roof over people's heads, but if people can't afford to live in Meaford, they won't be working here. They'll be working somewhere else. Then your employers, the people that you're counting on for big tax dollars, they're failing. Then your downtown starts to disintegrate. This store closes, that store closes. It's a vicious circle, and it's a downward spiral. It's not pretty. Housing is the most critical issue of our time, and if we don't come at it creatively and with our own investment, it's going to be very, very hard to get a fair share of what will be dispensed by the senior government. Senior governments are not terribly efficient at anything, and how hard is it anyway to make sure that every community in the country gets equal treatment in a crisis like this? It wouldn't be easy, you know. So.
Yep, it'll be a very. I think we're in for a very interesting fall on the housing file. We may get some cues from what happens with Toronto. They've got bigger problems than we can imagine, of course.
Sure. And I can tell you something, David. One of the biggest eye openers for me in this role of mayor is that by being at the county council table, I'm on the community services committee, so I have got a real taste of just how tragic the circumstances are. One file is the opioid crisis, which is dreadful, and the other is the homelessness one. And in all honesty, really, your community of Owen Sound bears the brunt in the Grey Bruce area for housing the homeless. And you know that the homeless situation is not what the average person takes it to be. We don't have a lot of understanding, but it is a crisis, a universal crisis, and we never had it to any large degree, at least not since the dirty 30s, which I don't remember. Honestly, I was not here then. But I think that we just simply have to be cognizant of how serious this is. And just before we leave housing, if we are, I just want to let you know that if I can find my note, we've got two really significant happenings in Meaford in connection with housing. The first is on Friday, October 20th. Grey County Fall Housing Forum is going to be held in the Meaford and St. Vincent Community Center between 10 and 4. And then on November 17th, the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay is having an event at Meaford Hall, new ways to finance the housing affordability gap and ensuring sustainability of our towns. And that's, you know, the bottom line. If we don't do something about the housing crisis, our towns and villages and cities are going to suffer a lot.
Very true. All of which is very, very true, Ross. But I think we do have some very creative people at the county and in our communities who I think can respond. And you've given two examples of some of those responses. And I think if people will just listen and engage, I think there are solutions out there. How we do it is another question, but that's your job. That's what your job is as politicians, is to give us the leadership there. So anyway, let's move on a little bit. What have I got here? Oh yeah, we've talked about housing, and industries. But Meaford suffered a huge loss and a major fire last spring with Johnny B. Auto and the water, people couldn't, or out of a abundance of caution, couldn't drink or shouldn't have drunk the water for quite a while. But that's cleared up. There's
It was
no
a week.
issue.
It was a week.
A week, but that's, for most people, that's a long time.
Oh, it was a big. It was a big scramble for everybody.
For sure. But Johnny Bees wants to relocate, and there's been a public meeting about, okay, where do we relocate? Can you outline the process that's involved in this? Because I think it's worthwhile knowing just what goes on when these things happen.
Yeah, it's certainly a big surprise to Johnny himself and his family. That was a disastrous fire, and I know his plan is to rebuild on the site where he was on Highway 26, but the remediation of that property is taking time, and in the meantime, in order to get his workers back on the job and to help meet the needs, cars break down every day, to meet our local needs, he sought a location where he could work on a temporary basis. He found it, and it's a good location, but in terms of it's not that far away. However, it is in a very sensitive area environmentally, and it is agricultural land, and it's also environmentally sensitive area. So that requires, and it's not zoned, for the purposes that he's using it, and so there had to be a public meeting on a temporary zoning to just accommodate him until he is able to return to his site. I missed that meeting. It's the first meeting of that kind that I've missed, but you may have heard I had my cataracts off, one in August and the other just on Monday. And it seemed a little bit much to chair an important meeting like that, having had it's not really an anesthetic, but they freeze your eye and a little bit like that. Anyway, I thought best to delegate that job to our deputy mayor, and I know that she did a good job. And I'm sure that the meeting brought out both sides, because there are people. The temporary location of a business like that in a rural and generally environmentally sensitive area. So, the whole planning thing has been very interesting to me because I knew very little about it, and we've had two of the planned developments for Meaford been taken to the Ontario Land Tribunal. There was a case heard just on Monday, and that is for the Georgian Harbour condominium, and there was also the Skydev one. Both of those went to the Ontario Land Tribunal, where it would be possible for a municipality like Meaford to be pretty much bankrupted. So we in both those cases we worked very hard toward a settlement, and in my humble opinion, those settlements led to significant changes in the designs, and I think the opportunity is there for these developments to perhaps be to proceed, but be much more in keeping with our desires and the desires of those who will be, directly affected as neighbors. I think that is better than bankrupting our municipality.
To be sure, Ross. And I want to come back to that, because I think it's that whole process is certainly worth lifting up for our viewers. But we've got to take a break. So we will do that. And
I know what that's about.
You know what that's about. So we will be back very shortly, friends. I'm David Shearman, and this is Politically Speaking.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
heartbeat of Mother Earth, I feel you and embrace your warmth. I see you dancing through the trees. Your song floats on the summer breeze. Community, we come together. We are the voice of our ancestors. Thankful for how much you bless us. Feel the thunder in the drum. All our voices sing as one. Feel the power, feel the pride. Feel the drumbeat deep inside. Feel the boom, feel the bass. Let's let go of time and space. It'll make you dance, it'll make you sing. Ode Wegun, Wedok Wishin. The drum will lead you, take you far. Always remember who you are.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Join me for my next show, where my guest will be Ross Kentner, Mayor of Meaford. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of the municipality of Meaford. And we've been talking about all kinds of things municipal. And I wanted to come back to where we were just before we went to break about the land tribunal, and that is what's called an administrative tribunal. Is that what it's formally called? It makes it. It's not court.
No, it would be like a quasi-judicial approach to things, and I think it's pretty high level for sure. They have a lot of authority. But what I've learned, people often wonder, what do we do behind closed doors when councils, go in camera? Well, one of the things there's only a few things you can do this for. One is purchasing or selling property, and another is legal advice. And in this case, hearing from qualified legal counselors, what the odds are, or how this really works, and does it make sense to go, put your dukes up and battle it out in that forum? And from what I can tell, it really doesn't. But what I like about it is that our council put as much work into developing what do they call them? There's a word for it, but solutions, as he would into defending us in a court case. And I think that the lawyers get right into what are the local ratepayers' issues, what works for them, what doesn't. How can we resolve this? How can we mitigate that? What can be done so that we can bring the two sides together and reach some kind of a conclusion and some kind of a compromise. And it's definitely a compromise. And I feel it can be a win for the municipality, because we need this housing. We need these new people who will come to occupy these new units. I think that I hope people will be open-minded and see what develops. But in my view, the chances of winning are extremely slight, and the chances of spending a great amount of taxpayer money with no benefit are extremely high. I'm hoping that we get a solution that people feel is actually quite satisfactory.
Well, that's great, Ross, because the question of closed meetings is an important one and is always on the back of people's minds. As you correctly said, what do we do? What do you do in those closed meetings? Well, first of all, you can't talk about it because it's closed, but you've outlined that you receive legal advice. And that's the whole point. That's why you pay a lawyer to give you this advice, so you as a council can make the best decision possible. I'm always reminded of the truth that according to lawyers, the overwhelming majority of cases never reach a trial stage or never reach something like a tribunal stage. They're settled prior, and sounds like this is the kind of situation that was settled prior.
Well, I think the important thing is that the tribunal itself seems to be very interested in trying for settlements first, as opposed to, and that to me is the system working as it ought to.
Right. And it's the we like to think of the legal system as adversarial, but at the same time, it is also has a high level of cooperation, if I can use that word, to make things work. And it sounds like the tribunal itself wants to find workable solutions for all parties involved.
I will share that after the settlement with SkyDev, I had a meeting with them in Meaford, and I found them. I brought along our development services director, and I found that they were very, very open to anything we had to say about how their plan might be altered, and they seemed very interested, as I said, in what we had to say. And I'm just going to tell you something I want to share with people, taking advantage of this opportunity, David, is that
absolutely.
Meaford is going to get more housing no matter what happens here, and we're looking at 400 to 500 building permits for residential units on services in urban Meaford over the next 2 years. That's a lot of houses for Meaford in that time, and it doesn't take into account the many houses that will be built in rural Meaford on private services. It does include about half of the 80 units that are proposed for the Toronto Excellence College, formerly the Georgian Bay Secondary School on St. Vincent Street. But that is a lot of building going on, and also the Loon Call development at the western gate of Meaford. I don't know if you've been by there at all, but I mean, that has been going full tilt for the last 60, 90 days. And I think you're going to see houses going up there before the snow flies. I'm very hopeful about that. And on the south side of Highway 26, I had a meeting with the Sinclairs, and they are getting very close to getting their services in as well. And it's going to be built in a number of phases, and each of the phases is a separate condominium. And each of these condominiums will have a clubhouse and amenities, and they include things like pickleball courts, fire pit sitting areas, pergola shaded seating areas, community gardens, trails, and so on. So I think this is going to be like at the western end of Meaford, you're going to see a lot of houses develop there, and hopefully very nice. Beyond that, I've seen some marketing samples, and it looks like that property overall is going to be called Bay Bounds, which is quite a difference. I think it was called Meaford Haven. But anyway, and I also, if I can interpret the drawings I saw, looks to me like they are thinking of perhaps some apartment buildings as well, which is something Meaford needs very badly.
For sure, absolutely. You spoke of the service demands that these new subdivisions and new places will place upon the municipal infrastructure. And I noticed that you've opened a public information center for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. After all, you've got the Georgian Bay right on your front doorstep, and there's your source of water. But what do you do with the sewage?
And we are definitely running out of headroom on that score. And I'm so pleased that this is one of our 15 priorities for this term. And I think the design is pretty much in the works now. So this will be an opportunity for people to actually, I guess it's the environmental assessment process that it has gone through now. And very timely. Again, staff has done an excellent job for us. And so this will be an important thing. It's going to be expensive, but Meaford we can accommodate much of the growth that is on the drawing board now, but there's going to be more, and we would not be able to do it without expansion of that facility. We do have potable water treatment for a long time to come. We have ample headroom there, but it's on the other side. And it's going to be interesting to see. There is the last I heard was a 1,000-home subdivision proposed for the eastern side of Meaford, between Meaford and Laura Bay, and that is a huge concept, and definitely. I think it would require maybe a combination, perhaps water from us and sewage from Town of Blue Mountains, or some combination of collaboration between the two municipalities to facilitate something on that scale.
Yes, I think we're underestimating the demand for housing in many ways. You probably see it as a municipal politician, but I suspect many of us just don't see it. Although it was drawn very sharply home to me recently by a woman who I know from Durham, who had retired to Durham, and son of a gun, she said, "Yeah, I like Durham, and my kids have moved. They left Toronto. They're in Mount Forest." So we're going to see this no matter what. There is no way we can avoid it.
I think that if you look at the big picture, David, it's pretty amazing if the new units at Bruce Power actually come to be. If things like the isotope production thing take off, as they very well might, if the pump storage gets built in Meaford, there will actually be a zone north of the GTA that has a totally, well, what I would call totally new, although we've had nuclear power for 60 years, but it would be like a totally new economic pillar built around electricity power and spinoffs such as the isotopes and things of that nature, which is a huge, and also hydrogen. As you know, Owen Sound is right dead center with both the isotope production and hydrogen production, leading edge stuff. So I think, like, my big complaint is that I don't want our kids growing up in Meaford to have to wait till they retire to come home, to live here, to experience, living here, which is so great. I think that with this additional economic sort of pillar, that there will be some very, very good jobs for young people who, if they want to stay here, to take advantage of those jobs. And there already exist some great jobs as far as I'm concerned. I had a wonderful career, and many other young people in broadcasting in this area. We didn't have to leave the area to have success in the field. And I think there are so many other areas. And yes, farming will always be, a huge pillar. Agriculture and tourism is an important component. Cultural industries have expanded so much. I just believe that the GTA is not necessarily the center of the universe, and it could very well be the Georgian Bay area that is.
Yeah, it's a very different world we're flying into. Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times, but I did want to come back to the pumped storage situation. And do you have any news or any progress notes on where that particular project is? As you said a moment ago, it's going to be big.
Yes, it is. From what I understand, the province has been giving signals that there could be a decision on this as early as between now and Christmas. So, and those are pretty good indications that things are moving forward. I know I'm in close touch with their spokesperson here, Clark Little, and Clark is a native son and very well versed in many fields. Had a career in the Air Force, and he certainly, I think, is very well placed as somebody who is like a go-between between the community and TC Energy. And I've noticed, certainly in the recent past, a great interest in making sure that we're kept in the picture, kept in the loop, that we know what is happening, have their estimates. I was in a meeting yesterday, actually, with the proponent from the proposed trade school in Meaford, and Clark came in through a telephone connection and talked about that project as well, and how they could work together and the synergies that would be possible. So.
Yeah, we'll just keep an eye on that one and watch for any provincial announcements. You never know what the provincial government is going to announce.
Well, the provincial government has had its hands pretty full lately, so.
Well, I may ask the question. I'm interviewing our MPP in the near future, so
That'd be a good
who
question
knows
to
what
ask.
I'll ask him what's the story on pumped storage, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, you alluded to, and I've alluded to the new tenant or the new owner of the site of the old high school. And tell us about that particular project. That's a kind of a different project for Meaford to be an institute of education.
It certainly would be a wonderful thing if this comes to fruition, because as you know, one of the biggest costs families have is trying to house a student taking higher education in the GTA. I've had a number of meetings, both Deputy Mayor Shirley Keaveney and I have had a number of meetings with the proponent, Amandir Bahar, and he has definitely got a lot of ideas, and I think also a realistic grasp on all the hurdles he will have trying to implement a plan like his. But I've learned a lot of things from him, and most recently that really he sees their primary target student as a Grey Brucer. Young people from our own area. I thought perhaps that the idea would be to attract people from the GTA, but he said no. The primary target is young people in Grey and Bruce counties, and definitely it would be a huge saving to them if they were able to attend this school and not have to board or rent somewhere far from home. He is talking. It makes sense to me. Small to start and grow up over time. But he said that they could handle 1,000 students in 10 years' time, and that actually the school would be capable of handling 1,500 if there was that kind of demand. A lot of interesting things about this. He is going to be talking to Dave Shorey from Georgian College. We've talked to Dave and putting them together. And it interests me that Dave is aware that we don't seem to have a very, very smooth sailing for families where the kids are going into the trades. They get hung up, waiting some distance from home for maybe 5 months to get into the next course and so on. It could and should be a lot smoother. And Dave is trying to, work with the College of colleges and universities to improve this. But they're going to get their heads together, and I think that they will help. That will be a good way to make sure that they're not duplicating programs that are being offered by Georgian. There was some talk, I wanted to mention this, about the fact that our new community school, which has so many great resources, does not have the shops that are existing in the old Georgian Bay Secondary School. And he said he would be more than delighted to work with the Blue Water School Board to allow young people at the new community school to utilize those facilities and get an earlier grasp of some of the trades opportunities that exist.
for sure. And you and I both are of an age that we would remember shop class.
I remember them well.
I actually still have some of the projects I worked on when I
So
was
do I.
back in those days. But yeah, and some of those skills are eminently transferable and stay with you all your life. So we shall see. It sounds like a very exciting possibility, and we'll have to keep an eye on that.
It is very early days, I can assure you. They have a lot of hoops to jump through, but the potential, I think, is really excellent.
Good. Well, let's get into something a little more, how shall I say it, a little less complex. First of all, you had the privilege of presenting the awards, and you alluded to this earlier, at the track meet, the cross country meet, and that was tell us about that day.
That was a fun day. I stayed until noon. I had some other obligations, but so all morning I was presenting the medals and getting a chance to put them on. The kids would lower their head and put their medal on. And, that Coyotes Club has done so much good for so many people. It's just great to see kids learning so many things. And I talked to one young lady, and I hope I'm using the correct expression. I want to put her at about maybe 5 years old, no more. And I said, how do you win when some people are taller than you and I boiled it down. I said, you're telling me it's a thought game. Because that's what she was telling me about visualizing and about believing and pacing and all the techniques that and I thought, like, this was one of the youngest competitors, and I thought, my heavens, if she has this grasp on, she's learned this much from the process, why, it's truly marvelous. Anyway, it's one of the great perks that you get when you're mayor. I had the opportunity before we got on this Zoom to write a welcome back to the Meaford Knights for their program, 11 seasons in the Greater Toronto or Greater Metro Junior A Hockey League, and all kinds of things like that. And I also, I think I mentioned the idea that county council gives you an entirely different view again of our area, and you're very focused on first tier matters as the mayor and the deputy and being on council. But when you get to county council and you start looking at a population of 100,000 and a territory that is 100 miles long and probably more in places, that is it's a whole different kettle of fish with a whole different range of problems. And I really have learned a lot from that as well.
Sure. Well, those are the nice things that you get to engage in as mayor, to kind of, hey, maybe you actually put an award on a future Olympian.
It could be. It could be.
You never know. Well, let's talk about some other good stuff that's happening. You've mentioned in the past that next year is the 150th anniversary of the municipality of Meaford, and one of the signature events of Meaford is the Scarecrow Invasion, and they're looking for help.
They are. So this has been a phenomenal year. We just had, I think it was the 17th Meaford International Film Festival wrap up. We've had the Scarecrow Invasion, which it was, I think, with the 26th year for that. And they almost closed it down after 25 years. And what I'm hearing is, even though it was immensely successful, they really do need fresh blood. I thought that whoever had the idea of having a pirate theme this year really scored, because that brought out a lot of people who wanted to dress up themselves. Not many people want to dress as a scarecrow, but are pleased to dress as a pirate. And so there was a lot of action, and it was one of the best scarecrow parades and one of the best family festivals that we've seen. So we really do we really need to get some fresh blood in there and help them, because 25 years, is really the life expectancy of a volunteer in our community. It's a lot of amazing things. I just have to correct you on one thing. It is actually the town of Meaford's sesquicentennial. But I believe that St. Vincent and Sydenham Township follow a year later. And some of their anniversaries are even more time honored than Meaford's. But anyway, there is a great interest, I think, throughout the municipality, and everybody joining in. I know Bognor, Leith, and Annan and Woodford are planning some things. The main idea is that for every one of our major festivals, right from Canada Day to each one of the main festivals that we have throughout the year, would celebrate the 150th in some way, sort of have a salute to it. And then we had an organizational meeting last week in Meaford, and I found that there was a great interest in actually developing some specific events for the 150th, which would really add to everything. I know they talked about having the 150th marked on the Monday of the Canada Day holiday, and have the Canada Day, and I should have a calendar here I'm not exactly sure which is, Canada Day, but in other words, there would be two major celebrations in the one weekend, which would be pretty awesome in the middle of summer like that. So I think there will be a lot of great things coming, but we do need volunteers. And I just want to mention too, something we're really looking forward to, because this coming year will be the first year of our Main Streets organization, which replaces the BIA, or the Downtown Business Association. I think there's so much enthusiasm for that, and I think if you come downtown in Meaford, you will see that there are far fewer empty storefronts. The storefronts that are existing are, sort of alive and well, and the crowds are here for all of these major events. So I think that Meaford is really in a very good place at this time, and largely due to all of the volunteerism that we enjoy.
Well, that's great, Ross, because believe it or not, we're almost at the end of our time, and I'll throw in another plug if I can, and that's for the Meaford Santa Claus Parade. Yes, it's coming, and Rogers TV will be there. I think it's the first Saturday of December, and it's in the early evening. So looking forward. I expect to be there. So looking forward to that. There will also
be another Christmas on the Bay this year. The first one last year, yep, on the Market Square. And by the way, one of those 15 priorities is greening the Market Square. So that's another thing we want to see. I always think of Niagara on the lake, where you've got a beautiful park opposite the Prince of Wales.
And I'm getting the hook here, Ross.
Okay.
So gotta go. Thank you so much, and thank you, friends, for being part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman, and yes, we'll talk again.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Understanding human nature can be a superpower.
The first 48 hours are critical.
What kind of idiot are you?